Ye- It was late, far later than we intended, when we decided to stay at a nearby hotel. The drive back home felt like an eternity, and exhaustion was etched on both our faces. My nephew and I had attended a family gathering, and the night had stretched longer than expected. It was practical, I told myself, just two adults too tired to make the journey safely. Practical. Innocent. At least, that's what I wanted to believe. But as we stood in the quiet lobby, the hum of fluorescent lights above us, something unspoken hung in the air. The clerk handed me the room key, his eyes darting between us as if he sensed the tension. I clutched the keycard, my palms clammy despite the chill of the air conditioning. This was nothing, I assured myself. Nothing at all. The room was small but clean, a single queen bed dominating the space. They didn't have any doubles left, the clerk had explained apologetically. My nephew Jason had shrugged, his expression unreadable. "It's fine," he'd said, his voice calm, almost detached. Now, as the door clicked shut behind us, that calm felt like a facade. "I'll sleep on the floor," Jason offered, breaking the silence. "Don't be ridiculous," I replied, my voice sharper than I intended. "We're adults. It's just one night." But even as I said it, my heart raced, betraying the composure I tried so hard to maintain. He nodded, his gaze lingering on mine for a moment too long before he turned away. I busied myself with trivial things, adjusting the thermostat, unpacking a toothbrush, anything to avoid the weight of the atmosphere between us. When I finally turned back, Jason was sitting on the edge of the bed, his head bowed as he scrolled through his phone. The soft glow illuminated his face, highlighting the tension in his jaw. "Are you okay?" I asked, the words tumbling out before I could think better of it. He looked up, his eyes meeting mine. There was something there, something raw, unguarded. "Yeah," he said after a pause, his voice low. "Just tired." We settled into the bed, each of us clinging to our respective edges as if the middle was some unspoken boundary we dared not cross. I lay stiffly, staring at the ceiling, the sound of Jason's breathing filling the silence. It was steady, measured, but I could tell he wasn't asleep. Neither was I. Minutes stretched into hours. The air grew heavier, charged with something I couldn't name. I felt hyper-aware of every movement, every shift in the mattress. My mind raced, 1,000 thoughts colliding in a chaotic swirl. What was wrong with me? This was my nephew, for God's sake, but the logical part of my brain seemed powerless against the emotions churning within me. "Aunt Clara?" His voice broke the silence, startling me. I turned my head, finding him propped up on one elbow, his face half hidden in the dim light. "What is it?" I asked, my voice softer than I intended. He hesitated, his eyes searching mine. I just wanted to say thank you. For tonight. For everything." "You don't have to thank me," I replied, my chest tightening. "It's what family does." He nodded, but his expression didn't change. Instead, he shifted closer, the mattress dipping under his weight. I froze, every nerve ending on high alert as he reached out, his fingers brushing against mine. "Clara?" he said. Dropping the familial title, his voice barely a whisper, time seemed to stand still. The logical part of me screamed to pull away, to put an end to whatever this was. But I didn't move. Couldn't move. His touch sent a jolt through me, igniting something I couldn't explain. The line we had always adhered to, the boundary that defined our relationship, blurred in that moment, becoming something fragile and uncertain. "This is wrong," I murmured, my voice trembling. But even as I said it, my hand remained in his, my body betraying the words leaving my lips. "I know," he replied, his gaze unwavering. "But it doesn't feel wrong." The room seemed to close in around us, the air thick with tension. My heart pounded in my chest, a chaotic rhythm that drowned out all reason. And then, before I could think better of it, I leaned in. It was tentative, hesitant, but the electricity between us was undeniable. His lips brushed against mine, sending a shockwave through me. "Clara," he whispered again, his voice filled with both longing and hesitation. Reality crashed down like a tidal wave. I pulled back, my breath ragged, my mind racing with the enormity of what had just happened. "We can't," I said, more to myself than to him. This isn't right." He nodded, his expression pained. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice barely audible. "I shouldn't have—" "No," I interrupted, my voice firm. We need to forget this happened. It was a mistake." But as I lay back down, the taste of his kiss lingering on my lips, I knew it wouldn't be that simple. The boundary we had crossed couldn't be undone, and the weight of that realization pressed heavily on my chest. The rest of the night passed in silence, each of us lost in our own thoughts. When morning came, we checked out of the hotel without a word, the tension between us palpable. The drive back was excruciating, every mile a reminder of the line we had crossed. Weeks passed, but the memory of that night lingered, an unspoken truth that hung between us. Family gatherings became fraught with tension, each glance a reminder of what had happened. Jason avoided me, his once easy demeanor replaced with a guardedness that broke my heart. And I was left to grapple with the guilt and confusion that consumed me. What had started as an innocent decision to stay at a nearby hotel had unraveled into something far more complicated. The bond we had shared, the trust, the closeness, was forever altered. And as I looked at him from across the room, his gaze filled with both longing and regret, I couldn't help but wonder if we'd ever find our way back to the way things were. Some lines, once crossed, can never be uncrossed. And the weight of that truth is something I'll carry with me for the rest of my life.